Welcome to the No One Buys Rotten Food podcast, where we explore all topics related to becoming more competent and confident so that you can create genuine relationships and live a meaningful life. My name is Mario Augsburger, and our guest today is my client Scott. Scott recently completed my coaching program, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to interview him about his experience. We talked a lot about his transformation and about what he learned through my coaching, and towards the end of the episode, we even gave away some actionable advice everyone can use to improve their dating lives. The main purpose of this episode is to give you a general idea of what coaching with me looks like from a client's perspective. If you like Scott's results and you would like me to help you achieve the same, at the time of this recording, I'm actually offering the first coaching session for free. I probably won't be able to do this for very long, so if you're interested, please take advantage of this offer before it's too late. To book a call, click the link in the show notes below or send me a message on social media saying free coaching session. Before we start today's discussion, I would like to quickly invite you to join my email newsletter. It's completely free. It's called the Outside the Box newsletter, and you can find it in the show notes below. All that being said, please enjoy this episode. All right, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
to
for
see
having
you.
me. Good to be here.
So for people tuning in, let's tell them a little bit about yourself. So where are you from? What do you do?
Sure. I'm Scott. I'm a penetration tester or ethical hacker based in Seattle, Washington.
Did you have any particular goals when you started the coaching program?
So in general in life, I don't really set specific goals for myself. I prefer just improving. That's my goal for everything. I want to improve in all parts of life, and so that's the same here. As long as I got something from it, it would be worthwhile. Time is, as long as I'm spending my time improving myself, I'm happy.
That's awesome. What does your life look like? Well, your dating life look like now compared to what it was like when we met?
Well, when we first met, I don't think I had had a date in years, and I just wasn't putting much effort into it at all. And and now I have like several a month at least, which has been nice, but
awesome.
without being stressful.
And
just
several,
like
those are several women that you're actually interested in.
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big change from like once a year to several a month. Right.
And mostly
cool.
it's like a different perspective on it. It's not like it has to take from anything else. I can keep doing the things I love while also going on dates, and that's been nice.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big thing. Like a lot of people think they have to spend a lot of time searching for women, right? Like they have to go out every day and approach 100 women or something like that. But it's just not the case, right? You can kind of like integrate it into your life because you're a very busy person. I mean, you have a really good job and you have a lot of activities going on. So you don't really have time to do things to just like specifically meet women, right? Yeah. And that's an excuse that I hear a lot from people, like from guys, because it's like they're afraid of talking to women. So their excuse oftentimes is, oh, I'm just going to work on myself right now. I'm just going to work on my life and improve my career and all that before I meet women. Whereas you can do that at the same time. It's not an either or situation. Right. As your situation showed. Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting because when you started, you were already quite a social person, because oftentimes when I get new clients, they're not actually that social. So I help them be more social, but you were actually quite social, but for some reason you just never got dates, right? Or women never saw you as, let's say, a sexual creature, right? So what do you think are some main things that you learned on the way that changed that for you, that helped you with that?
I think a lot of it was about being more open with my feelings and emotions. I've always, I think, as far as I can remember, always had trouble sharing my emotions or being in touch with them. I think it was mostly I had my emotions, I knew about them, but I was suppressing them or ignoring or something like that. So being more open with that and with keeping less hidden, like less inside, just being more open with people about my feelings and intentions, I guess. was probably the biggest change. That's really I don't really think too hard or work too hard on it. It's just like a reducing of what I'm not sharing, I guess. Trying to share more of myself with people.
Do you remember any exercises we did that helped you with that?
We did one exercise. It was a different intonation. I don't know how to describe it. I guess trying to get out of my head exercises. That's a lot of problems I have in life are related to thinking too much. So just like talking about something passionately, I think that's what it was, and that really helped. Mostly,
like take a random topic or like a random object and talk about it passionately.
Right, exactly.
Right? Even though it's nothing that you could talk about passionately. Like, I don't know, like for example, the spoon or something. There's not much to say, but you have to come up with something, but not just the words that make it passionate, but the way you say it, right? Like the way you move while you say it and your tonality and all that. I also remember that I told you to tell everyone that you know that you are looking for a partner. And I think that helped as well. Like I saw a big change after that, because I felt like before that you always had a shame around this topic. Like you didn't really talk about this topic at all, right? Like you didn't talk about sex. You didn't talk about wanting to have a girlfriend and so on. And I mean, now look at you, you're on a podcast right now. Talking about it, right? Which is a big change.
Definitely. I think just it's I was talking about honesty before, being more open. It's the same thing. I just had to get used to like not hiding it and being open, I guess. And it was once I started, pretty much for me, if I make the decision to do something, I do it. So I just needed to decide in my head to do it, and by seeing that nothing went wrong when I talked about it, that really helped me. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I also remember you had like some resistance towards being traditionally masculine, or like you just always like pushed away everything that was associated with like stereotypical masculine men. You kind of like just pushed it away and said you don't want to be like that. And then we kind of worked on that, and I think that helped you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think the most important thing that I discovered was it's not the masculinity, it's the intentions behind actions that really matter. So people can tell if you are being honest or if you are not. And so I think a lot of the things...
If you're just being nice to get something from them, for example.
And once I realized that, I love that, because my intentions are good in like, I like making the world a better place. I like improving people's lives. And so people can sense that. And and even if I'm open with my emotions, it doesn't take that away, because my intentions are good. And so I really appreciate that. That means a lot and makes it easier to be open, not as scary.
Yeah, I mean, especially also like showing that you're a sexual creature, showing that you are interested in a woman. That was really hard for you at first, because I think there was like a subconscious belief of, I don't know, like women don't like sex, or women are not into a guy that makes a move, or I don't know what the belief really was. I don't think it was a conscious belief, but I think it was like a subconscious thing that was like going on. And that just kept you from doing it, right? And maybe also like a little bit of a fear of rejection, not just by her, but also by people around, like people that see you approach a girl or something like that, right? Or that see you show interest and so on. I think there was some sort of resistance there. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. I remember that you liked some of the books that I recommended to you, and I think that was also your way of learning, because everyone learns differently. So it was like kind of like I always gave you books, you read the books, and at the same time we discussed the books, and then also I kept you accountable with the exercises that were in the books that you wanted to try and so on. And that also I said you should try, and then also exercises that were not in the book but that I thought would be good for you. And I think that was a really good combination.
Yeah. I think in the last few months I started to really appreciate that books can, I guess, long form text, or I don't know, can help to like think through things or approach problems, and in a way I hadn't appreciated before. So I really, they were really
so
helpful.
before the coaching, you didn't read much, or
Yeah, really in the last year I've started. It was through our talking, but also several book clubs I've joined and other reading I've done on my own. I really started to appreciate books more. I think it's an ideal way to learn where I didn't appreciate that as much. I think college, textbooks, things like that really ruined or even like high school reading.
well, because you have to do it, right? So no one wants to do what they have to do.
And the things they assign are not assigned because they're good books. They're assigned because that's what has been accepted. And a lot of the accepted readings are not very good. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, reading is really useful, but I also think if you only do the reading, first of all, you don't really know which books to select, and you will be very biased. If you have a certain problem, like I remember some of the books that I recommended to you, you kind of had a resistance towards at first because of the title. And you were kind of like, I don't know if I will like that. But those are oftentimes the books that are most important for you to read because you have a resistance to it. So it's kind of like a part of you that you're pushing away. Right. And that's where there's something that you can learn. And I remember that was the case a couple of times, but you probably would have never read those books if you would have seen them somewhere in the bookshelf or something. Right. So this way you had a bigger change. And also, yeah, I was able to tell you exactly which books you should read right now and which parts of the books and what you should focus on. And then also hold you accountable, because most people, when they read a book, they never actually do what the book says, right? They read 10 books and haven't done any exercise from any book.
Right.
And well, then you might as well just not read the book at all.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. Which was your favorite book that I recommended to you?
I think probably the Models by Mark Manson.
Models?
Yeah. I really appreciated.
I thought that was your favorite one as well.
I appreciated I think I like him he seemed like a cool guy. We have similar approach to life, and I didn't really have like everything he said was like pretty smooth, like in terms of like understanding. Like it all made sense and was logical and approached it rationally, which I really appreciate. And that's what I need.
Because you're a very logical person.
Right.
So
for like practical use, that was by far the best, I think. And the most change came from that. So, yeah.
You remember what things you learned from that book?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing was the honesty thing, that all of it is, the whole book is about honest intentions, honest actions, aligning your actions and words with your feelings. And that's made all the difference for me, I guess, being more open, as we talked about before.
Yeah, that also made the big difference for me back when I was learning this stuff, because I used to try to figure out how to be good with women and just follow a lot of advice online. And then sometimes they would just give you some advice that was not really congruent to you, right, as a person. And then you would try, like, I don't know, like you would try saying what the guy in the YouTube video says to women, but it just wasn't authentic, so the women wouldn't react well. And then you would be like, why don't they react? I said exactly the same sentence he said, right? For example. Or also kind of like just a couple of techniques that are not very authentic, right? That don't really show your authentic self and so on. Or like hiding something, like hiding some insecurities as well. Because people always think, especially men, they have to be perfect when attracting women, which is just not the case. If you're showing that you're vulnerable, then you're showing that you're human, and humans like to connect with humans. They don't like to connect with someone they cannot relate to, because they're also, they know they're not perfect themselves. So they cannot relate to a perfect person.
Right.
It's impossible, right? So you have to show some imperfections.
Yeah.
And also this way you get some feedback and you learn and you grow, and yeah, that's basically the whole journey. You become better in life. Like, I feel like dating can be used to improve your life in general as well.
Yes. So one of the ways, and actually another thing from the book, I don't know if he mentioned it directly or it was some other book, but being honest with compliments, I guess, or making compliments. I don't know. I don't know, afraid, or I was unwilling to. I never really paid attention to things like that I liked, I guess, or I didn't acknowledge them in other people, I guess, or that they have. Or so since I read it, or in the last few months, I've been much more open with compliments. When I see something I like, I tell people, I really like your hair today, or you know, I love your watch, whatever it is. And it's again aligning words with feelings, and not once has anyone not like been really receptive and happy to hear it, because it's honest. And
it's honest compliments, and they're not generic compliments either, right?
Exactly.
It's not just like, you're beautiful,
right?
Like a woman hears that every day, pretty much, from different men.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be honest, and even like with friends of mine, it's really like it seems like sometimes it seems like it really makes their day, like brightens their whole attitude. So I really I think it's really great.
And I really like that you learned that you shouldn't just focus on hot women, but that the way you do anything is the way you do everything, really. So like, if you're treating your friends like this, you will automatically treat women like this. If there's a woman that you really like, right? You will just, like, if you're always approaching people, for example, then if there is a hot woman next to you, then you will also approach her, because that's what you do. Right? If you're always giving compliments to your friends and to random strangers, even dudes, then if there's a hot woman, then you will do the same, and then it won't feel creepy and it won't feel weird.
Yeah.
Right? When it comes to compliments, what was your favorite compliment that you gave?
Honestly, the compliment themselves, I don't really remember.
Or it's the all favorite about reaction.
Yeah. So the one, right. So my favorite, I have a friend, Carolyn, who lives here, and she's one of my best friends. And we were at a dance class together. And when I walked in, I mentioned, I saw her hair. I think she'd just done her hair, or I don't know. It looked really nice. And I told her, and that's what I was thinking of when I mentioned, like, it brightened her whole day. It seemed like her whole face lit up. She hugged me, said, "You're so sweet." It was like, it really made me happy inside, because I really like her. She's awesome. And it made me happy that she was happy. And it was totally just an honest, like, reaction. But that must have been my favorite.
That's a good one. And it also kind of shifts your belief about yourself. So if you're doing good things to other people, like giving them a compliment or something like that, and an honest one, then you know that you're a good person, right? So like that you're doing good things. And then when you approach women, for example, you don't feel like they're on a pedestal. Like, you don't put them on a pedestal, because you also feel like you're on their level. Like, you feel like a good person. Whereas oftentimes men who lie or don't really work on themselves and know they should be less lazy in their lives, or I don't know, like, if any negative thing, if they know that about themselves, which they always will, they will automatically feel less confident about themselves, because they will feel like they're not worthy of her, and then they put her on a pedestal, and then they can't get her because she can sense that. Right? Because no woman likes to be put on a pedestal, right? It's actually interesting, because I saw like a video yesterday that a friend sent to me, where there was like, they put a person on a pedestal, but then the person was alone on the pedestal and felt lonely on the pedestal. Whereas a lot of guys always think women love it when they like put her up high here and put themselves down here, right? But it's not like that. She wants to be together with you, so she wants to be on the same level, right? She wants to, be with you, not be alone on the pedestal. Yeah. How about the book Evolution of Desire? What do you think about that? Was a bit more scientific.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I really appreciated its it was like very different from the other books. Very much like a foundation for everything else. So like one of my favorite things in life is understanding how people think, and how people became, how they evolved to be, how they are. And And so it was really interesting and fun, I guess.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
like science books. So
Did you notice that since you read this book, you can't look at people the same way anymore? Because this was what happened to me when I read this book many years ago.
Mm.
I was just going around and I would see interactions between men and women, and I would just analyze them all the time. Because I would feel like I would just constantly, I don't know, maybe that's why I became a coach in this field.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed analyzing, but I just couldn't switch it off anymore. I was just like constantly like, okay, oh, that's why. Oh yeah, that's why. There's probably this evolutionary reason behind them behaving like this and whatever. Right?
Interesting. Yeah, I think most of my understanding is intuitive of it. I didn't really have, I don't remember specific things much. It's mostly like I spent a lot of time, and I have spent a lot of time already trying to understand people and how they interact with people and why. And so I think it added to that. I don't think it was a whole new dimension necessarily for me. Just a filling out of my already.
I mean, I think it also helped you putting together a couple of things. Like we talked about how men desire things differently than women. Do you remember that when we talked about that at the beginning of the coaching? That was a long time ago. Like how, what women are attracted to, what men are attracted to, and why it is different. And I think that's where this book also added a little bit some details to it. But now you're like, you probably won't be able to think of a specific thing, but you do understand it, right? When you see it. Yeah, that's cool. Any other books you would recommend to anyone listening here?
Other similar books to Evolution of Desire, just about people evolving, and how they, like, why they care about things they do. The Red Queen, I forget who wrote that.
That's a good one as well. Yeah,
really good one. Sapiens, just that kind of book I really enjoyed, and anything about people's thoughts. Otherwise, and self-therapy that we read. I thought that was really interesting. I haven't put into practice too much, but understanding, it's just, again, understanding emotions more. And
I mean, also with self-therapy, a lot, like some people, they actually really follow the process, but other people, I'm a bit more like that. They don't follow the process, but because they now understand it, they can see it in everyday life and kind of like identify different parts of themselves and things like that. And that really helps to get over insecurities and so on. And that's what happened to you as well, I think.
I think the whole, like, coming from a third party perspective and acknowledging all the feelings you're having, emotions you're having, that was helpful, very helpful with that.
Awesome. Do you have any moments that you remember where you realized how much you've learned? Like where you realized, okay, I've changed a lot, or like my dating life has changed a lot?
Yeah, I think honestly, every time I'm talking to anybody in person, especially girls, it's really clear how much more open I'm being, I guess. I'm not, I still have feelings of, like, oh, should I, like a little bit of fear in sharing things.
Yeah, it's normal.
But I'm able to share it. So pushing through rather than not. That every time I do that, and I realize that, it makes it easier. But it also helps me to acknowledge how much I've grown, and I really appreciate that. I like pushing through fear. It's one of my favorite things in life.
And you also kind of, every time when you talk to women, you now have a step-by-step process of what you need to do, right? So it's not that unclear. I mean, some things will always change and so on, but you kind of know what the next step is. You kind of know where you're at.
Right. And I don't think I really even think about it like that. I just I'm just open.
Because now it's also kind of like integrated as well. Right. But like for example, before it was kind of like, okay, so how do I go from having a conversation to now getting her number, for example, or like getting her on a date? But now you actually, you could just do it naturally, but if you would not know how to do it naturally in the moment because for some reason you got nervous or something, you do know some ways of doing it that kind of work every time.
Yeah, having a plan of what to say and how to say it, that has really helped a lot.
Yeah, and I noticed that you can analyze your problems by yourself now. Like you don't always need me anymore.
Right.
Which is really good. I noticed throughout the coaching that there was less and less questions and more you messaging me, oh, this and this happened, right? Like I met this new girl at a dance party or something like that, right? And more things like this happened, but less questions came. And that was also one of the moments where I realized that, well, you've changed a lot, was when we went on, I remember we went on a call and we still had a couple of calls left, but we had a hard time knowing what to talk about now because you had the answers already, right? Which was a super good sign. And then we actually took a break for a while. I remember that because we said, okay, you don't actually need the help right now anymore. Like you're literally good. You know what to do. And then we took a break for a while until you did have some questions again. And then we did the last couple of calls. Right. So that was for me a big moment where I was like, yeah, I guess I did a good job with you.
Yeah.
And you did a really good job following what I said, right? Following the instructions and so on. Because now I always feel like there's a lot of advice out there online, a lot of coachings and so on, where people just kind of they get motivated and so on, they get quick results, but they always need the coach after, right? So it's like they are dependent on the coach and then they have to, keep on paying for the coach for their dating life to work out.
Mhm.
Whereas what I try to do, and I think this worked really well with you, is I don't just give you the fish, I teach you how to fish, basically.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying this podcast and you would like to go on a deep dive inside my mind, you would definitely love the Outside the Box newsletter. This is where I discuss all my newest thoughts coupled with some tips and tricks and other outside the box ideas I'm exploring. There is no other piece of free content where I offer as much practical advice as in my newsletter, so be sure to check it out. You can find the link in the show notes below, where you can also find the links to all my social media accounts and everything else I think you should check out. With that being said, please enjoy the rest of this episode. So, what are some next steps for you? What are your goals right now? Because now you're going on quite a lot of dates, right? Like you don't want to go on more dates. I remember you saying you want to go on like maximum one date a week.
I think that's changed a little bit in terms of it's just like an effort thing. Like I don't want to spend time on my phone. I don't want to be communicating.
Mhm.
But as I've been meeting more people in person, it's been easier. That's easy. You know, set a date, put it on the calendar, and so that's been fine. It's the online like scheduling or texting that I want to minimize.
Yeah, that's just taken away too much time or effort or.
Yeah, I just don't enjoy it.
Okay.
So next steps. I mean, keep improving. That's always my next step.
Do you meet enough people in real life for you to not need online dating anymore?
I think so. I mean, I didn't really do any online dating until or successfully at least until we were working together. So a month ago. So I mean, so I think that's been. I've met a few people online, but I think overall the people I meet in person are much higher percentage, higher chance of success. It's easier to know if I actually like them when I meet them. And I definitely meet enough people.
That's awesome.
Or enough is a vague idea, but But yeah, that's
awesome. I mean, that actually happened to me as well because I focus on online dating and real life dating. And then a couple of years ago, I realized I don't like online dating. I was really good at it.
I don't think anyone likes it, Mario. I think that's just like
I know people that enjoy it. I really do. Like yeah. Like my best friend, for example, he really enjoys it.
Okay.
He's like, I don't know, he just likes messaging back and forth with them.
And he has a life. He does things.
Yeah, he does things. Cool. But I don't know, for some reason he enjoys it. And he also gets pretty much all of his dates from it. Right? But for example, I realized that even though I was really good at it and if I wanted to, I could go on a date every day, right? But I just didn't enjoy it, and also it's harder to filter out the people, right? And I
Much
think
harder.
also it's very easy as a man to just get pulled into the looks, because then we're just kind of like, oh yeah, she's hot, right? And then we swipe right, even though if we would see her in real life, maybe we would, well, first of all, we would see her without her filters, because nowadays girls use a lot of filters. So we would see her without the filters. So maybe we wouldn't think she's good looking. But then also we would straight away, when we talk to her, notice that she's not good for us, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if you've already invested, if you think, oh yeah, she's hot, and then you swipe right, and then you have a match, and then you message back and forth, and then you eventually meet her in real life, then you convince yourself oftentimes that she's better than she actually is, or like that she's a better match for you than she actually is, because you've already invested. So it's like this investment bias that is kind of like the same as gamblers, right? Same thing. Like you already lost money, you want your money back, sort of thing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing here. You invested time, you want this to work out.
Mhm.
Right. So yeah, so I actually stopped using the apps completely years ago and just focused on meeting women in real life, because I was meeting enough women in real life, and yeah, I never looked back. I really enjoyed that. So maybe you should do that as well. Maybe you just drop the apps if you don't enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, as I'm currently using them,
Mhm.
just like when I have extra time, maybe at most, like probably 5 minutes a day at most.
Mhm.
It's very efficient.
Yeah.
And one of the dates I have this week, the second date on Friday, is with someone who I met there. I think it was
Mhm.
like not a fluke, but it's not. I don't think it's gonna be a common thing where it's very successful. But as long as it's low input, medium to high output, I'm
Mhm.
happy with the trade off.
That's awesome. You got a date now in a little bit, right? After this
Right
call?
in 45 minutes.
Okay, good. So we still got some time, but it's kind of cool to to interview you about how your dating life has changed, and you got a date right after the call.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to your old self, to yourself before coaching?
Advice. I don't think giving my honestly, it's all like it's a self realization, process. Like
Mhm.
what I learned, we talked about the honesty, the openness. So I mean, my advice would be that, right? Be more open. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to share your whole self with people.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I mean, yeah, I don't really. I think people need to realize things for themselves. So yeah, not much.
Mhm.
Just don't give up, I guess. Right?
Don't give up. Never give up.
Never give up.
This is actually, I mean, this
Yeah.
sounds like standard advice, but this happens a lot. A lot of guys give up,
Yeah.
especially nowadays, because they don't like modern women. I've noticed a lot of guys nowadays tell me they prefer women with a little bit more traditional values, right? Like, I don't think you care about that, but a lot of guys actually care about that, and then they say, okay, I'm just gonna give up because I don't like women who don't have traditional values, or guys who have been hurt in the past, like they've been married, then they got divorced, then they
Yeah.
had a big messy situation, then they start hating women, and then
Honestly,
they start
Mario, I think it's just like
Yeah.
a fear thing. I don't really think they dislike them. I think
Yeah.
they're just afraid
Well, they're
to get
afraid of
hurt,
it happening
right?
again.
Yeah, afraid to
Yeah.
be hurt again,
Yeah.
right? So that, yeah,
And then they hide behind the anger,
right.
and like they yeah, like that. There's a thing like insecure people disguise their fear as anger
Mhm.
oftentimes, right?
Yeah.
And I think this applies in this case a lot. So generally, you're a very social person, you're very good at meeting people. What would you recommend to someone who is not that social and has a harder time meeting people?
I think be intentional with your interactions. If every interaction you have takes a toll on you or is tiring, then don't waste them.
Mhm.
Find things that you really care about, because that's what connects people is passions and interest. Find something you really care about. Find, I don't know, 1 to 3 things that really mean a lot to you that you really enjoy, and then invest
Mhm.
your time there. And people like intentionality, doing things with intention. I was on a different
Mhm.
podcast 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and it was a finance podcast, and we talked about what I don't know, what we learned or what's most important to us in other people, and it's doing everything with intention, choosing your people, your interests, your activities, your everything you do, choosing it with intention, not just because it happens to be the thing available to you. That is what I would recommend.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Talking about doing everything with intention, I remember you having to show women your intention, and then first we started having you say it to them, like tell them that you're interested, right? And then we kind of transitioned to you not like clearly saying it, like I want to take you on a date, I like you, sort of thing, but you showing it to them. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that?
Sure. Yeah, so mostly beforehand I had treated everyone the same, like as in retrospect, as like I'm interested in friendship. And so I'd never been any different. It had never been clear to anybody that I was interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really just goes back to the honesty thing, but being open with intention. So being comfortable first saying that I'm interested in someone, but then also just showing it. So it doesn't really matter how you do it, just showing your interest.
Mm-hmm.
That's been really transformative, and it's really interesting how little tiny things that don't seem like a big impact really change people's perspective. So we talked about intention, right? It all goes back to that, being intentional, and also words do matter. Like sometimes it can be confusing, so finding words that are clear in intention, whether or not you say it outright, are important. So that's been good, and noticing how people react, and if it's clear to them that if I want it to be a date and it's clear, then I know that what I did works, and if it's not, then I know it doesn't. And so just learning from experience has been helpful as well.
And then also noticing that rejection is not really that bad. And also, if they turn down, like if you're showing them that you're interested and they're kind of like turning you down, it doesn't always mean that they're turning you down forever. It might just mean that they're just not ready yet. So, for example, if a guy leans in for a kiss and the girl moves back, then that might mean that she's just not interested in him at all. But it could also just mean that she is interested in him, but she's just not ready yet. She wants to get to know him a little bit more first before she wants to kiss him or anything like that, right?
Yeah, I think open communication is important. Yeah, I feel like most often it should be clear when someone's, if you're in tune with your emotions and with the other person's emotions and you're communicating clearly, verbally or non-verbally, then it should be relatively clear. But it's important to be aware. Yeah, but I think it's all just about communication.
Awesome. So, what was your favorite thing about working with me? Except for my beautiful smile.
Right. I mean, of course, that's first. Yeah, for sure. I really liked how it was very casual. There's no like, it wasn't like being in class. It was like we're, working on ourselves. That's like, just like, yeah, like casual. We're able to be open with each other, which I appreciate. I like that you're a nice person. That's really important to me. I don't really interact with people who aren't. So appreciated that you had a plan as well. That's important. I didn't feel like I was wasting my time. So yeah, I think that's the most important stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. And who do you think would benefit from coaching like this? What type of person?
I think the communication part is what you excel at. So people who have emotions, have strong feelings, and know they do, but aren't sure how to express them. I think that is where you can come in and help the most. It was often like a thing, like when I was growing up, like I have thoughts, and I'm like, but I wouldn't share them because I wasn't sure how they'd be taken, right? So anyone who has thoughts and doesn't know how to express them in a in an acceptable way or in an honest and open way. That's who I
Mhm.
think should talk to you.
Awesome. I remember once you told me that I should not just be a dating coach, I should be a life coach. That was right pretty much at the beginning of us working together. And I don't know if you realize that that's what I kind of do, right? I
Right.
don't only do dating coaching, it's also life coaching because it is connected together,
Yeah.
right? What made you ask that question back then?
I think because I had noticed that all the things we were talking about were affecting other parts of my life, but also that they, that it was so important, not only when talking to someone you're interested in, but talking to anybody that being open. So it seems like it's hard to restrict improvement to one part. So being able to have a general discussion or open talking about different things that might not be clearly related but are is really important, I think. So I thought it would make sense, just like and the emotion, like I talked about, that I wanted to be more open with my emotions, more understanding of them. That's something I've talked about in therapy, talked about with a life coach. So it seemed like a lot of overlapping stuff there. So
Yeah.
and just Mario, I have to run in about 3 minutes.
Okay. So we'll slowly come to an end because you're gonna have to go on your date. So let's discuss that. Actually, do you have any questions about your date today?
I don't think so. I don't really think too hard about dates anymore. I just go and I'm open and honest, and it makes it a lot easier and more fun. So I don't have any questions. Just gonna.
And that is actually exactly what we wanted, right? When you started this coaching, that you end up not having questions anymore because you know how to figure it all out by yourself. Right. So yeah, I'm super happy to see you like this, how much you've changed, how much you've improved, right? What are you going to do with her today?
We're going to go to one of my favorite Chinese restaurants in Seattle, and we're going to eat, and then not sure what after that, but we'll see. Yeah, that's the only plan so far.
Awesome. Thank you for agreeing to this call today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It was an honor to be on your podcast.
And yeah, good luck on your date.
Thank you, Mario. Looking forward to seeing you next time.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also find the links to my other social media accounts in the show notes below. Besides that, if you would like to go on a deep dive inside my mind, don't forget to sign up for the Outside the Box newsletter. And last but not least, don't forget that no one buys rotten fruit.